Welcome back to our World Chess Championship Made Simple series, and today we're going to finish the World Championship with game 11 in the match between Magnus Carlsen and Jan Nepomniachtchi. As you may have already heard, Magnus managed to keep his title by beating Jan in the 11th game and winning by the score of 4-0. Now, what I want to show is not the nitty-gritty details. I don't want to show you all the variations that could have happened in the game. I want to show you the psychological side of things. All right, what was going in through their minds as they were playing. Now, we don't know what Jan was thinking, considering all the blunders that happened, but we can take a guess, and we can guess why they played the moves they did. All right, so we start off in an Italian. Jan decides, if I'm gonna play for the win, I need to try something new because we already had the Roy Lopez quite a few times in the previous games, and Jan couldn't really get anything big out of those openings. He got a slight advantage and then got a bunch of short draws, but he couldn't get anything decisive. I guess he couldn't squeeze Carlsen the way Carlsen squeezed him. Now, in this Italian, we get the two knights defense, where knight g5 would be the fried liver, but they don't want it. They want d3 instead. And after bishop c5, c3, we have a normal Italian opening. The whole idea is that white wants to get d4, but they don't want to do it right away because, black can just strike back in the center. But if they keep the center with gioco pianissimo, the very slow game, then they can get d4 later with the king already castled. So far we're just following the theory. There is nothing new here. All these moves have been played quite a few times. And after bishop a7, it's always hard to tell when is it better to play here, when is it better to play there, when is it better to play a6 to watch out for the pawn, when is it better to play a5 to watch out for b4. So in this game, Carlsen says, you know what, I'll put my pawn here and bishop here. That way you'll never get to him. And the knight says, maybe I will. And I think around here, Jan starts creating his own ideas because it's rare that you see the bishop and the pawn here. So he says, maybe I can get to your bishop in this way. Maybe I can get my knight somewhere useful. This is a typical idea, getting a knight somewhere useful. You could also go for a knight d2, knight f1. But the thing there is that you don't have bishop g5 options, for example, and you don't have bishop e3 as easily, right? If you play knight d2. Which is what happened in this game. He actually went for bishop e3. Black says, just in case, you have some knight g5 in mind, just in case I want to play bishop e6 without worrying about takes, and knight g5, how about I just throw in an h6 and see what you do? Okay. White decides to get the knight somewhere closer. You could try knight b5, but I don't think it really gives much. So that's why Jan says, wait a second, he belongs over here. And trades off the good bishop. You could say that here, the bishop on a7 is very annoying. And Jan wants to get a position that's a little more pleasant for him. So he says, I have the good bishop. You have the bishop working from home. We're not the same. Okay, my rooks will be connected. Your rooks, not anytime soon. We're not the same. But Black says, it's okay. Even if we're not the same, I'm better. Okay, my rook will be just as good as yours. And my knight will make sure that any d4, it will be just a dream. And you will not get any winning chances in this game. You got that, Jan? And Jan says, we'll see about that. First, let me make sure that, maybe I have queen b3 without you kicking me away. Maybe I have some space in the future. Maybe I have some d4. But for now, let's just keep your pawn over here, okay? And Black says, how about we trade off bishops? That's my worst piece. He doesn't have anywhere else to go. Let's trade off pieces, and every trade brings me closer to the World Championship crown. How would you like a trade? How about a trade now? How about a draw? And so very close. We're very close to simplifying the game, and that's why Jan says, fine, but I'll give you some problems. You know that two knights and a queen can be very dangerous together, and so this is not exactly drawish yet because there's a lot of play left. Okay, there's a lot of room for maneuvering and a lot of ideas for white. Okay, so right away he starts asking the pawn some questions. But Magnus says, what questions? I don't see any problem. I just put a pawn here, nice little pawn chain. What do you have against me? Jan says, maybe d4? Maybe I can play d4 and you can take my pawn and I'll take yours, and you'll take mine and I'll take yours, and maybe the d file will come alive. Maybe? No, because even in that scenario, let's say we play d4 right now, right? For starters, just pawn takes. Okay. If the pawn takes, I take with rook. If the knight takes, I take with rook. If the rook takes, I probably take with rook. I don't see why not, or knight in that case. All right. Both ways should work. For that reason, we don't have d4. It's very hard to actually play it. Even though white would like to, this annoying knight, make sure of it. Okay. Knowing this the guy is annoying, knowing that the only chances we have is d4, and this guy's being really annoying, maybe we want to get rid of him and get the f5 square. That's why Jan comes up with this plan of knight g4, getting a pawn to g4 and playing knight f5 or d4. Okay, that's why he plays h3 right now. Okay, that's his plan because he knows the only way he's going to win this is by playing d4 or sticking something here. If he plays knight f5 right now, it looks nice, but to be honest, just ruins things for white. You have double pawns. The black pawns are coming down. The Rolling Stones are coming. This guy is the target, and it's a very tough position for white. Okay, for that reason, Jan says, wait a second. Wait. We're gonna trade a knight here. I'll take back with the pawn and stick the knight there. You'll take it, and I'll take back with my g pawn, and then we'll see how your rook and king is feeling. So Magnus says, let's see, let's see. In the meantime, let me just finish developing. What were you saying about my rooks again? That I have some problems? Where? I don't have any problems. My rooks are awesome, more awesomer than yours. Okay, and White is saying, wait a second, I can now trade off your knight, and you don't have d5 because he's not protecting d5 anymore. Takes, and d5 anyways. At this point, Jan must have been disappointed because he got nothing out of the opening, no real advantage. Magnus managed to get all the pieces out, get the central breakthrough first, okay? And White's got some double pawns to worry about in a lot of cases, okay? To be honest, this is still equal. I mean, White didn't do anything so bad, so wrong, but from Jan's perspective, it must have been like, oh, I can't win. Anything I do is just equal or worse. I hate this. So I'm sure around here he got discouraged. And no matter how hard he tried to come up with something, it just got worse and worse from here on in. Okay. So he tries to complicate things because if he just takes, let's say he takes, right? Takes. He could have got a draw with something like this. After d4 is probably a drawn endgame, although black can maybe press with the pin. Even black can start winning in these endgames. All right. So for that reason, white wants nothing to do with this trade. Okay. He wants to try and ignore the pawn and play around it. So that's why he plays for d4. Okay. Maybe he could have gone knight f5, but I don't think it would have helped much. d4 tries to complicate things, and pawn takes, pawn takes. Notice that if we take with, let's say, rook, it wouldn't do much. We're just down a pawn. All right. The only way to protect d4 was to take. Okay. If they take with knight, ooh, maybe Jan is hoping for something like this. Maybe the pin can actually be useful. But in the game, Carlsen says, nope, I don't have to go for that. I could just play rook e4. And now your knight's in trouble. I'll take this guy later when I feel like it. And you're not going to pin because if you take with rook, I'll take you. The best thing you can do is probably still rook takes d4. Okay, the best we have is to take the pawn, take back, they take our pawn, we take theirs, and after all these trades, after all the liquidation, we get a drawn endgame. Because both sides have equal pawns. White pawns are defended. If the black queen goes away, I can take this guy or that guy, and so it's just a positional draw. Okay, neither side can really do anything here. And I'm sure Jan looked at that and he's like, but I don't want to draw. I want to win. And once again, he starts trying for a win. But usually when you play for a win, you end up playing for a loss. And that's how he came up with this atrocious, horrific, eye-hurting move, g3. Okay, this really hurt my soul because to be honest, I was cheering for Jan. I was hoping he could win or at least not lose 4-0. And this really breaks my heart because after g3 is played, there is no hope left. This is just a blunder because now Carlsen can even give up the exchange. for this amazing attack. He gets everything in the world for the exchange. Okay, so he takes the knight, gives it up for the rook, and starts bothering the white king. Okay. At this point, Jan is probably okay with a draw. If he repeat moves, we'll probably take the draw, but there will be no draw. Okay, because the black knight is just invading everything. There is no stopping him. Okay, and the only way to keep the fight going is to sacrifice all the extra ice cream you got. White has a few ice creams. He has to throw them back right away, hoping that the knight takes back, and okay, now we can survive. All right, but of course that's not what happens. Carlsen ignores him anyway. Says, "I'm just going to mate you." Okay, and White takes. Okay, the only way to stop mate because now the queen can at least try to help. After queen check, the knight is coming in. Okay, knight is coming in with knight h2 threat. There is a queen g2 afterwards, and rook takes, and it's just a disaster for white. Like, for example, you move the rook, thank you, good game. At least we're winning the rook back, and then material will be even or better for black. Okay, White says, how about a queen trade? Let's go to an endgame. And of course, this endgame is actually not so bad because there's even this trick. Okay, a rook takes rook and we get a queen. So this endgame would be great for white, except no, we'll get a better endgame where we take with a check. Now there is no pawn takes pawn. Okay, and I'm sure at this point, Jan must have been really disappointed, really depressed. Okay, he gets an endgame where he's down a pawn. He needs to win at some point because he's got like 3 games left after this, and he needs to get 3 points, right? If he gets a draw in this game, he will have like another 2 black pieces. Most likely, he will not get 3 wins in a row. So at this point, he's really disappointed, and he's playing at endgame down a pawn against the best endgame player in the world. All right. So that's where he starts going adrift, and there is not much he can do here. It's completely losing as well because it is an outside passer. It's an active black rook. It's just a completely losing endgame. Rook endgames are usually drawn, but not this one. Nobody can help you in this endgame. All right. White tries to get some activity with the rook. Tries to get some hope. Tries to bring the king in for some chances. Maybe he's dreaming about something like this, but no, no. Okay. If you play c4, your rook is tied down. I don't believe in this type of chess with your rook looking at your own pawns. All right. For that reason, he tries to help over here, and here comes the black pawn. The only hope that white has is to keep the pawn with the rook and get the king to help out. But the problem is after check, you want to take the pawn to get a passer, right? But then we have a little decoy. You can take 3 seconds and see if you find it for yourself. Can you find Carlsen's idea? Black to play and win the world championship. Ready? Feel free to pause the video. 3, 2, 1. And congratulations if you found the fairly simple rook b3 decoy. We remove the guard, and now that the rook is gone, there will be a queen. Okay. Here it's completely hopeless, and Jan can hope that this is some sort of fortress, but not really. Okay, we can create a G pass pawn over here, and the passer is unstoppable. Let's say this pawn is gone. Maybe it's a fortress if you make this guy disappear. Maybe there are joint chances. But as it is, not really. Okay, because the white king is wide open. The rook is not even helping out. The pawn is like miles away. No one's there to help, and white resigned, knowing that this is completely hopeless. Even if he was to get a draw, he wouldn't win the last 3 games. And that's probably going through his head as he says, good game. All right. Some people say he wanted to get it over with. He was just tired of playing. He didn't want to be tortured in the last 3 games. He didn't want to try and prepare and come up with something, so he just lost this one, maybe even on purpose. But I think he was just disappointed that he couldn't get anything out of the opening. He couldn't get any advantage, and he got a depressing endgame that no wonder he didn't manage to hold. So on that note, Carlsen stays the world champion, and we'll see if anyone young like Alireza Firuza or any other youngster coming up will be able to put up a fight with Carlsen in the next few years. Thanks for watching, and until next time.